Hey there, guys. So right now I'm working on a Weapon X Wolverine from XM Studio. The what I'm doing here is shortening the foot peg because it was way too long, causing him to lean unnaturally. And there was actually a lot more issues with this. There were also broken pieces on the helmet right there, as you can see. And since there had been so many repairs to do, the client went ahead and asked me to repaint the entire helmet piece and the hardware dangling from his front belt. Now, the thing about this piece is that it does have a clear epoxy kind of sprinkled about it to give it a wet look, which is completely fine, but some people are very much not into it. And since that epoxy was sprinkled about the helmet, I had to find a way to remove it. Acetone never does me wrong with removing certain plastics or adhesive elements, but on this end, it just really was tough to take that off. So what I ended up doing is taking off a lot of the factory paint, which is good, but for a lot of the clear epoxy that was raised, had a texture look about it, I had to wet sand down to a smooth kind of surface so that I can paint on top of it. Since there were so many issues, you kind of see me jumping to different points in different parts of the body. And right here, I'm actually fixing the claw. The claw had popped off when I had received it. So I'm just reinforcing it with JB weld that is also pre-mixed with steel and a hardener, which is awesome. So you can bet that that's going to stay in there for a really long time. And then right here, I've noticed that when I was doing a really close inspection of this statue, that it was damaged in the claw. The claw had been bending inward, and that's what that crack is because the crack wasn't on the other side. And it seems to me like whoever had this prior to me receiving it had put some hot glue, or not hot glue, super glue, because that dries up in a clear, dusty kind of look. So I ended up wet sanding it with a very high grit so that you can at least remove a good portion of all that chalkiness off. And right here, I'm attacking the foot peg. I'm sanding it down slightly, kind of like in dentistry, thinning it down so that I can make a cap and make it stand the way I need it to. And as you can see, that wobble is very noticeable for sure. Now, I didn't record myself forcing the foot down into some epoxy sculpt in order to form the new key. Instead, I have a picture. So next time I end up making a key, I'll be sure to record that. Now, moving on to painting, the client had wanted me to replace all of the green and make it into a gunmetal. So right now I'm hitting it with a gloss black primer in order to get a strong foundation. And then eventually I'm going in with that gunmetal. It's by Vallejo. Never used it before, but this thing actually works wonders. It's pretty awesome. Right now I'm just kind of making sure that all the black is thick and in every crevice that I need it to be in. And here's the gunmetal right now. It's very similar to painting in chrome where you want to have smooth strokes and you don't want to build up so much of it at once. It's pretty awesome. Highly recommend it. Now here's the render the client showed me. He wanted it to look like this, however he wanted the detailing to be in gold. So off camera I was hand painting in all the gold, and that one's by Dr. Martens. I believe it's called a copper plated gold. So it's not too gold, it actually kind of has this orange hint about it, kind of like copper, which is pretty interesting. So I had to layer a good amount of it. Everything was all hand painted and hand weathered. And then once I had gotten that done, of course, I had to move over to the consoles. Now, these were a pain. I had to sit and think about how I'm supposed to pull these off. because all that resin really gunked up a lot of the details. So what I did is get a pretty rough sandpaper, and I was sanding down all of the raised epoxy portions and lowering them down to the foundation of the items themselves. And then I just started the process all over again with black gloss primer and then gunmetal, and then moved on from there. Now these small bits are actually the parts that broke off of the helmet, so I'm just repeating the process and kind of matching up all the hardware to later eventually attach and then reinforce that they won't fall off again. Now once I got the base coats down, of course I went in with some hand painting and hand weathering. I don't record myself doing this mainly because I think it's fairly boring footage, and there's a lot of people that record themselves hand painting, so I don't do it. Especially since I have to eyeball everything, and these are the small pieces that are back to the helmet that I have reinforced. Now, this is a technique I had learned over the years of doing this, is if you absolutely want to get a clear epoxy coat, you just have to apply it into any clean area really. Get it down and then mix a hint of purple in it just so that it doesn't yellow over time. And so that's what you see me doing here. And the reason why I'm mixing this up is because the client wanted the helmet and the hardware to match the wet glossy look. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm reinforcing the small bit that had broken off, and then just kind of putting it in crevices in which air, like water, would build up and kind of seep out of. Now the same technique is repeated on the body, which is why I didn't record myself doing it. So now that that is all said and done, here's what he looks like finished. I fully assembled him. The lean is little to non-existent. He's very in there. The lean is in the slightest. Kind of looks natural in a way. And that's pretty much it. What I got him to, from start to finish. A lot of fixes, a lot of hours and thinking of how I'm supposed to pull this off happened. And if you'd like to keep an eye out for more builds or upcoming ideas and such, be sure to follow me on Instagram at dweeb_creations. Do that. If you like the video, awesome. Like it, subscribe, follow. There'll be more paint jobs and custom work to be had. Thank you for watching.